You're not fooling anybody, Bender. The next screw that falls out is gonna be you.
Eat my shorts.
What was that?
Eat my shorts.
You just bought yourself another Saturday, mister.
Oh, crushed.
You just bought one more right there.
Well, I'm free the Saturday after that. Beyond that, I'm gonna have to check my calendar.
Good! Because it's gonna be filled. We'll keep going. You want another one? Say the word. Just say the word. Instead of going to prison, you'll come here. Are you through?
No.
I'm doing society a favor.
So?
That's another one right now. I've got you for the rest of your natural-born life if you don't watch your step. You want another one?
Yes.
You got it. You got another one right there. That's another one, pal.
Cut it out.
You through?
Not even close, bud.
Good. You got one more right there.
You really think I give a shit?
Another. You through?
How many is that?
That's 7, including the one when we first came in and you asked Mr. Vernon here whether Barry Manilow knew that he raided his closet.
Now it's 8. You stay out of it.
Excuse me, sir, it's 7.
Shut up, Pee-wee.
It's Two Dads, One Movie. It's the podcast where two middle-aged dads sit around and shoot the shit about the movies of the 80s and 90s. Here are your hosts, Steve Paulo and Nick Brianna. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
And today we are continuing our walk down Two Dads, Two Decades through the 1980s to 1985 and the teen coming-of-age comedy drama classic, The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Nick, this is like, one of the classic John Hughes movies. You picked this for us. Tell us a little bit about your history with The Breakfast Club and why you chose it for 1985.
Yeah, I actually didn't watch this much early on, but in recent years, this is one that my wife and my daughter and I have watched together a couple times. And I'd seen it in the past, but I thought just in light of you picking Fast Times at Ridgemont High a few weeks ago, it would be cool to kind of check in on the teen high school situation, with a few of these movies. And I know we might have some more coming up too. But yeah, I just would be wondering how this would look to me under the lens of like trying to analyze it and talk about it for an hour and a half instead of just sitting there and letting it wash over me like it has so many times. So interesting cast, kind of the first big role for some people and others who were like popping in at different points throughout the 80s. And John Hughes, one of our favorites here on the pod.
Yes,
so I thought this might be a fun one to talk about. And it's a mix up from all the explosions and gunshot wounds that I'm used to recommending for the show.
I think we've definitely moved several steps away from January at this point.
Yeah.
Where there was a nice little run there of lots of action, and that's great. But we've been, last week was Ghostbusters, week before that was Strange Brew, and then Fast Time. So, we're getting a better mix, I think, of like the kinds of movies that we grew up watching to some extent. For myself, for The Breakfast Club, this was a movie I probably would have seen for the first time sometime in high school, not earlier than that. I don't think I appreciated it as much at the time. It felt like, because it was, when we were in high school and these kids in this movie, whatever, they're not really kids, the actors, but when they're in high school, it all felt so different. It was like, wow, school, things aren't like that anymore. It's such a different world, now that we're in the mid to late 90s and not the mid 80s. And then in retrospect, as I've gotten older, this has looked more and more like my childhood as time has gone on. And I go, oh no, never mind. That really was like that. And
it's almost like it's not for high schoolers because you need a little perspective on high school to fully enjoy it,
Absolutely correct. And I think that's really, really an accurate statement about most of John Hughes's teen comedies, which he was so famous for, is they really are about retrospecting on your own teenage years and seeing yourself in these people, often, especially in this movie, a little bit in all of them, right? I mean, they're really, it's I don't think they're all such kind of caricatures in some way. It's probably hard for you to look back and go like, well, I was exactly this person or that person, but we all kind of experienced a lot of these similar things.
For sure.
I also feel like looking back at this now as a parent gave me a very different view. I don't think I've watched it in the last 10 plus years, give or take, since I had my wife had our first child. And so there were elements of this movie that hit way different. And we'll get into it obviously as we get to those scenes, but really hit me so differently, being a parent and looking at it kind of from that perspective. I also want to just point out, this is one of the two kind of what we might call the primary Brat Pack movies. The kind of common accepted definition of who is in the Brat Pack is basically you were either in this movie or St. Elmo's Fire or both. They both came out in 1985. St. Elmo's Fire was basically this cast minus Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall, but plus Rob Lowe and Andrew McCarthy. So that pretty much rounds out, the Brat Pack, as
Yeah.
it were. Obviously, there was a lot of other actors and actresses, Demi Moore, John Cusack, who are sort of associated with, but not really core to it.
They kind of rose above it a little bit.
Well,
it's like saying that Beyonce was in Destiny's Child. It's like she's Beyonce.
There is that, but there are also people who didn't necessarily have great careers, spectacular careers, like Matt Dillon is like kind of associated with this group because even Matthew Broderick, the people like that, Jennifer Grey, who were in those kinds of movies at the time, but not necessarily with this core group.
Right.
Like as an example, if you think about, these are kind of the first Brat Pack movies in that these are the movies that helped define the term. But The Outsiders came out a few years before this. 16 Candles came out before this, and those are obviously clearly associated movies. But I just think it's interesting to kind of look at this movie, remembering that this was kind of such a cultural thing.
Totally, yeah.
And how it defined the way Americans looked at Hollywood at this time.
Right.
Really interesting. Cool. All right, well, hey, let's jump into the facts on The Breakfast Club.
Yes, sir.
All right, The Breakfast Club was released on February 15th, 1985, with an R rating and a running time of 98 minutes.
Crisp.
Written and directed by the incomparable John Hughes. Starring 7 people total, but really, it's Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, probably your kind of top 3 cast members. Rotten Tomato score, 87%, not a surprise. On IMDb, a really hearty, healthy 7.8, also not a surprise to me. And then Siskel and Ebert gave this one 2 thumbs up. So kind of like critically acclaimed all around, the crowd likes it and everything. No awards at the time that it came out to speak of that I could find, but it was added to the National Film Registry in 2015, along with a lot of the other movies that we do.
Yeah.
I noticed. And here's
who decides on that, by the way? Is that a board?
Yeah, there's a National Film Preservation Board. I don't know.
We got to get on that, baby.
I don't know how it's selected, if it's like appointed by, is it like government associated, or is it some private group that's doing this? I honestly don't know. I just think it's a neat little thing to point out these kind of really important movies that have gotten that recognition.
It would be funny if it was like super political and we see like all these Kevin Sorbo direct to video movies getting put in there.
Deuce Bigelow is now on the National Film Registry. Yeah. Here's the fun part about the facts on Breakfast Club. It cost $1 million to make. Now, it was 1985. I understand you could do things for a lot cheaper, but when you have a movie set entirely in one location, they never leave this school. They do in the front of it. They do throughout it. They never leave the school for any scene shot in this movie. The entire cast is like 13 people, and the primary cast that is in 98%, 99% of the movie is 7 people.
Right. Because it's just the parents dropping them off
And
are the
picking them
only
up.
other people. Yeah.
That's it. And so that's all that shooting clearly was done in a day.
Yeah.
I didn't look it up, but I bet this movie took like a week to shoot at most. Like it's just a quick thing. And so it cost $1 million. It made $51.5 million at the box office. So at 51.5 times what it cost, which is the largest multiplier we've ever seen. Knocks Nightmare
Got
on
a
Elm
new
Street.
big dog.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. It was like 30
35?
times.
30?
Something in that
Okay,
ballpark.
yeah.
Is now dethroned officially with the release of this episode for us. So those are the facts on The Breakfast Club. And yeah, man, let's dive into it. How do we kick this movie off?
I love how this just starts off because I was surprised, honestly, when you went through the awards, there were no nominations, nothing for the song. Because I feel like this is really, even detached from the movie, like just such a great song and such a memorable song of the era, right?
Absolutely.
So we don't get any visuals other than a black screen with yellow lettering showing us the opening credits while we get almost the entire Don't You Forget About Me song playing. And it's great. Yep. And I'm grooving to something that has like no pictures on. Like I'm already in on this movie. Like I think it's very effective how it just like, all right, people. And also, if they released this, maybe the song was out a little before the movie or something. I don't know how that worked, but it's like if people knew the song and then they get hit by it at the beginning, that would be super psyched about that.
I'm pretty sure I remember reading that this song was for the movie.
Right.
I think it was released. It was kind of,
but when they put singles out, I don't know if it does it lead up to it or I don't know how that kind of thing works.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But anyway, great song to start off. And then we get a David Bowie quote on the screen, which I forget exactly what it says, but something motivational.
It's something basically about like the kids are all right, leave them alone. It was I'm paraphrasing.
And then we see a little of the budget in action because the quote like explodes and shatters, and then we're in the exterior of the high school.
It actually reminded me very significantly of the opening of The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, where the logo like burns into the backdrop or whatever. It's like that, but not as cool.
Yeah.
Like something similar. So we get there, and so we're in the front of Shermer High School, right? This is fictional Shermer, Illinois, where basically all of the John Hughes films take place in one way or another. And the kids start arriving. We have cars pulling up, and we get very briefly introduced to each of the, people who we're going to be spending the hour and a half with, the kids in detention and their parents. And I think in one case, a little sister. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of interactivity here, but we do get a little hint as to like what each of them deals with when it comes to their parents.
Yes, a little bit of that.
And I love in particular when Ali Sheedy's character Allison shows up, is dropped off by what's clearly both of her parents. Are two adults sitting in the front of the car, and she gets out of the car and they don't drive away immediately. And so she sort of like takes a step towards the front window to like maybe say goodbye or something, and then they basically just speed off without her. And it's very, to me, that was like the most poignant of the arrivals.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And she, later it seems like she's almost putting on the, she's trying to give off the effect of someone who doesn't have both their parents and whose home life. So like, maybe, since she's lying about a lot of stuff later, but yeah, this is a great scene. And I love a drop off scene, kind of like the beginning of Airplane, where we're watching all the characters get dropped off at the beginning at the airport. One thing that I spotted for the first time watching this, there's kind of a, Anthony Michael Hall voiceover where he's kind of reading like the essay that they end up writing later, and it's showing a montage of different shots from the school, you know, and the school that's closed for the weekend, you know, so just papers out, whatever. And it shows the trophy case, and there's a little thing that says Man of the Year for each year. And it's Carl, the janitor. So Man of the Year. So it's funny that that's like put in our face at the beginning, because I think that enhances your enjoyment of the movie if you kind of spot that early on.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I don't think I'd noticed it before, and I thought to myself like, oh wow, yeah, so the dude really peaked in high school, like, right? That's kind of the story there of Carl is hey man, Man of the Year, good for you. You never really left, right?
But
like,
I will say he seems like a pretty thoughtful, like, self-assured type guy when he's in it later. Like, he doesn't seem like he hates his life doing what he's doing.
He doesn't hate his life because he never left the place where he was the man. So there's an element, I think, of just the Peter Pan syndrome of like he never had to actually grow up.
High school, yeah,
exactly. He never had to leave the place. He could still be a big man on campus in his own mind,
right?
But we are spending way too much time talking about Carl. That's for sure.
We'll be back, Carl.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we see everyone getting dropped off here, and Emilio Estevez's dad is one of the cops from The Fugitive.
That's right.
Very recognizable, like it all
Chicago cop.
I swear he's one of those actors who's like, yeah, I'll act in anything as long as it's filmed within the city limits of Chicago.
It's got to be inside the loop.
So it's great to see him taking a day off from chasing Richard Kimball. So yeah, they end up, having to spend their Saturday school, and they're inside the library, which is an amazingly like well-funded. It's crazy how nice this school is. I mean, really throughout this movie, they're like, oh, shit sucks. And it's like, people would kill to have the resources that your school has in 1985.
It's wild. Yeah. It's big 2-story room, beautiful sculpture, like in the middle of it, like all, it's really quite amazing. And they all kind of arrive, they find their seats. We get introduced briefly to John Bender, Judd Nelson's character, who shows up and kind of kicks Brian, who is played by Anthony Michael Hall, out of the chair he apparently wants to sit in. Yeah. But they're all kind of getting themselves situated. And I think it's interesting. We get the first indication that while all these people are obviously in different, social cliques within their high school, Andy and Claire, the Emilio Estevez and Molly Ringwald characters, are clearly more connected than any of the other other three rather, because he is a jock, she is a popular girl, and so therefore they run in a lot of the same circles, and so they're sitting at the kind of the same table, a seat between them, but like basically with each other, and everybody else is spread out around the room. And this is when we get to meet Paul Gleason.
And we love Paul Gleason, and we've seen him in Die Hard and Trading Places.
Love to hate him, really.
It's a face. He's really good at it. He's very good at being kind of a despicable, in charge, like semi-incompetent type person.
Just drunk on his own power kind of idea. It's almost always it.
And this killed me when he comes in and he's laying out, what the day is going to be like for them. He's like, it's 7:06 a.m. Yeah. So this starts at 7 a.m. That is absolutely brutal. Can you think of yourself, high school era, having to wake up an hour before you would for school to like go in as, Yeah,
I mean, I think our school might have started at 7:30. I don't remember for sure because I know senior year I didn't have a class until third period.
Yeah, so you get to do the late start, right?
It was like 9 something before I had to show up. Yeah, that would have been bad.
So he's running down to them, and he's the hard ass. He's no talking, no moving, no sleeping, and by the end of this 9 hours, you got to write 1,000-word essay about like who you think you are, basically.
And what did he give them to write 1,000 words on?
A single sheet of paper.
I laughed my ass off when he was handing out individual sheets of lined paper and a pencil.
Yeah.
Said, write 1,000 words. Bitch, I couldn't do that if my life depended on it.
Right.
It is physically impossible to write, unless I could write the word I, as in the singular pronoun, over and over again. Maybe I could fit 1,000
Maybe
of them
you can
front
fit
and back.
that.
Maybe.
And it's funny, he did point out, he said, and this is a real essay, not 1,000 of the same word written in a row. It's definitely like, all right, Bender, I've seen your ass here before. I know the kind of shit you try to pull.
Exactly.
So then Bender, the Judd Nelson character, is sassing back a little bit. So he's like, are there any questions? You guys sit here, be quiet, obey me. And he said, does Barry Manilow know that you raided his wardrobe?
Yeah.
Right. And he gets pissed off and he throws another Saturday
That's
school
right.
his way.
See you next week, Bender. Yeah, exactly.
When he leaves and now it's just the kids in the library,
right.
And the door's propped open,
yep.
and it looks right into the open door of his office across the hall. So he can kind of lean back in his chair and peep in on him. There's a very funny thing where Bender and Brian, Anthony Michael Hall, are both like taking their jackets off at the same time. And then Bender looks at Brian, and Brian is kind of like, oh, I can't do this at the same time as you. And then pretends he blows into his hands and like zips his sweater up
cold,
again. I just love that.
Oh my God.
All
Poor
right.
Brian.
So now we got our kids hanging out here.
Yep. Exactly. And there's a couple of great lines. They basically start arguing with each other. For the most part, the initial conversations and interactivity between the kids in detention is all acrimonious. It's all aggressive. And it's mostly Bender. Bender's just kind of
he's really poking at Molly Ringwald.
Poking at Molly Ringwald, really getting in on everybody, making fun of everybody else. And so Andy, Emilio Estevez, like turns to him, and there's just a line I absolutely love early on when he says, if I lose my temper, you're totaled, man. I just love that line.
Got it right here.
And they're just like, and then Bender responds like, totally. And he goes, totally. It's just like, it's so 80s.
Yeah.
And it's so like.
All the threats back and forth, like all these things, I couldn't keep track of writing them down. But yeah, especially the stuff that Estevez is saying. It's just like, ooh, perfect.
It really is great.
He also, so Bender insults Estevez's character, who's Gordo. What do we call him? Gordo?
No,
Andy.
He's Andy. Gordo's his character in Mighty Ducks.
Oh, okay, shit.
He's Andy.
Well, I was thinking Mighty Ducks. So Andy. Oh no, it's because Bender calls him Sporto as an insult.
Right.
Which
is jock.
What a very funny. Haha, you're good at sports, Sporto.
Well, I think it's more like,
don't call me Sporto. Quit telling people I'm good at sports.
You got to remember, liking things and caring about things is totally uncool.
That's true.
So
that is
having a commitment to something is what he's making fun of. Like,
Bender says something to Molly Ringwald about a hot beef injection, I think.
Yes.
So he's just being like very vulgar and gross. And he's picking on her, and Andy's sticking up for her a little bit. And then Brian keeps kind of chiming in, like trying to be a part of it, which is very funny.
Because they're telling Bender, Andy and Claire are telling Bender, you don't matter here.
Yes.
You might as well not exist at this school. You don't do anything. You're not in any clubs. You
Crazy initial insult, by the way, because that is
like
devastating. The worst
Hiroshima,
thing you can say to
like
someone.
off the bat. Like they did not mess around at all. They went straight nuclear on him. And so when he reacts really negatively, it's really should come as no surprise to anybody. But Brian, like they're talking about like this club, that club. I'm in this. I'm in sports, whatever. You don't do anything. And Brian's in the back going like, well, I'm in the Latin club, in the math club, in the physics club. And Bender finally is like, what the hell are you talking? Like you keep saying stuff. What are you saying? What? And he asks Claire, are you in the math club? And she goes, that's an academic club. And he goes, what do you guys do there? And he's like, oh, we talk about physics, and math club, we talk about math. We had a banquet at the end of the year, whatever. And he goes, see, it's sort of social. Demented and sad, but social. Like, why is that different? And it's like, there is something, I think, in this, and I'm going to point this out a few times, I think, but in this watch through, I liked John Bender way more than I ever remember liking John Bender.
Yeah.
He comes with such, he's Sobchacking, like he's not wrong, he's just an asshole.
Right.
But he comes with such honesty and immediately pokes holes in this veneer that
every single person's weakness nailed down from the beginning. Like he knows whatever he doesn't know about himself, he has an incredible amount of emotional intelligence to just be picking on people this effectively.
Yeah. Well, I think he knows himself very, very well. He's just figured out how to put up barriers and be defensive about things, but he reads them for filth.
Oh my God. Dude, this is Mike McD sitting at the judge's table.
Yes.
He comes in and I put you on all your cards. I know what everyone's thinking. Yeah. And I feel the same way about Bender because I really did enjoy him. And by the end of it was like, oh, he's the star of the movie. Like,
I can see it. Yeah.
He pushes all the action forward. Like he's the one making everything happen in this.
Yeah.
But Yeah, incredible beginning for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things that Bender does is he goes over to the door, which has been propped open, and he steals like the pin that keeps it open, right?
Because it's like one of those pneumatic things. If you take the little pin out, it just doesn't have anything to like hold it open anymore. Like, yeah.
Right. So then it shuts, and obviously Vernon comes over and he's pissed. Like, oh, what's going on? And he's like, well, this door has to be open. So he tries to prop it open with a little folding chair, and they're like, it's not going to have.
Oh no,
not gonna hold.
Bender's so funny. He's like, the door is way too heavy, sir.
Yeah.
And it like slams shut.
And then it whips shut in such a funny way. Like
so
they
hard.
added that effect. That's not from the real door. Like they put a motor behind that, and thank God they did. Thank God they chiseled off some of the budget.
A crew member sitting behind the thing, just pushing
Yanking
it, just pushing it real hard from where you can't see that.
But the chair goes flying. Really like it. And then they put the most like cumbersome magazine rack in there, like something they have brochures on in a hotel lobby or whatever. And you can't even climb around it. And Andy Emilio Estevez is really like hamming it up, trying to like get through, which is very funny. So I do like that they're all kind of bonded because nobody ratted on Bender about what happened to the door. And this is the very beginning of the day.
It's interesting because you'd think somebody in the, like, I feel like Andy and Claire understand well enough that, you know, angering an authority figure doesn't do anybody any good. I feel like just that. Allison doesn't talk to anybody at this point anyway, so she's not going to get involved. And then I feel like Brian probably wanted to say something, part of him did, but he's like, I'm not going to, like, Bender will be so mad at me. I'm not gonna, like, he's scared of Bender enough that he's not going to do it. So I feel like it's not that they like Bender, it's that they each have a reason for not bringing any attention on themselves in a lot of ways. I do love watching it. It's like, there's that door, but there's another, it's a double door. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they just open the other damn door? Like, it's so weird. They didn't even try opening the other door.
The other thing my wife pointed out when we were watching this, she said the door has one of those built-in door stop like kickstand things on there. She's like, they couldn't have taken that off. Like, nice.
For the movie. It needed to be this way for the movie, and that's fine. But yeah, the door slamming on that chair is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. So they're getting shit for this, and they finally realize, okay, well, the door is going to stay shut, whatever. Right. And Vernon is pissed because his day is already going sideways, and it's like 7:22 a.m.
Super early.
And Bender says to him, kind of under his breath, "Eat my shorts."
Yeah,
which is great. We got a lot of proto Bart Simpson behavior, like between this and future films. And they get into this great exchange where it's like, okay, that's another Saturday school. You want another? He's like, yeah. So, and him morphing from like being tough to being scared to like seeing a look of this guy's really bullying me, just like my fucking dad does, which we see a few times in the movie. Like, I think this is just such a great exchange because he's not just the tough, like, I don't care what happens to me guy in that moment. Yeah. You really see him crumbling under the weight of that.
Well, and I think that the most impressive thing, I 100% agree with you. And I think one of the most impressive parts for both Judd Nelson and Paul Gleason as actors in this movie comes immediately after the scene. So it's a very famous scene. In all honesty, it's probably the intro clip that the audience heard before we start, because I feel like that's what I'll pick. But, you know, he basically says, I got you for the next 8 weeks, next 2 months of your life are here on Saturdays. Like, I got you, right? And then Vernon leaves and Nelson yells, or Bender yells, "Fuck you!" like as the door shuts, kind of like hidden by the slam of the door. Both actors then breathe out a sigh of frustration, where they both make it absolutely clear from their faces and body language that they know individually, I went too far. Like Vernon knows he went too far. That was stupid. He should not have done that. No, you know, Bender knows he went too far. He should have shut the fuck up. And that recognition by both these characters of the fact that they just got in a big dick swinging contest and both wished that they hadn't, I think is really powerful. Just moment for those actors. I think it's really telling and kind of like just an interesting moment for each of them, because they move on from there. I mean, obviously nobody changes over this. Yeah. But there is this moment of like, God damn it. Like, you know, just that we've all done that sigh of like, you know, sometimes you like mete out a punishment to your kid for something that they did and you realize after the fact, like, fuck, I took that too far. And then you gotta ask yourself, do I need to change anything? Do I not? Like, whatever. Yes, totally. And a lot of times you just go, nope, what's done is done. Let's just move forward. And they're doing that here. But I really found that interesting from both of these characters right now.
Yeah. Moment. Oh, that's great. Yeah. I mean, the tension between these two guys is really fantastic. So, and what Vernon says to Bender, I think before he leaves the room, he says, you know, you should do something spend more time trying to do something with yourself and less time trying to impress people. Yeah. Which I thought in the context of everything else Vernon has said and done, I'm like, oh, that's like a decent thing to say. I mean, that's not like a mean thing that you don't say to a kid. That's
100%. It is, but it's also like Vernon, you know, physician, heal thyself. Like take your own damn advice, dude. Like what he's saying is so evident of a lack of self-reflection on his part, because he's doing exactly the same thing. He wants to appear powerful to these children.
And throughout this whole movie, he does not seem annoyed that he's there on a Saturday.
No, he doesn't care. He's got nothing better to do.
He loves it.
It's his little fiefdom.
It's
his little controlled area. Yeah, I don't imagine that Dick Vernon's home life is very satisfying.
No,
a term we'll talk about later.
We get it. We have a few montages in this movie, which I think are really effective. When we get kind of a bored kids montage, you know, Bender's feeling a little defeated, and it's just all the different kids, like, you know, they can't do anything except stare at their essay paper. They're looking around. They're changing positions. Ali Sheedy is making a really disgusting drawing where she's shaking her head, and then the dandruff is becoming snow. The
picture is fantastic. She's a fantastic illustrator, but then she
dandruff snow is going to harm the resale value of that, dude.
She also like wraps like a little thread tightly around the end of her finger, and it turns
that
purple.
Kind of stuff.
And for whatever reason, that always makes me cringe hard. There's something about that I'm like, I can feel it in my fingertips when I see someone do that, and it just does not make me feel good.
But that is a classic I'm bored thing to do.
Absolutely.
You know? Oh, if they had some glue to like let dry on their hand and then peel it off.
Little rubber cement.
Yeah, the
best. We cut then to, I think it's just like at the end of that little montage, we've got a point where Bender's like ripping pages out of books, right? And it's like, which, as much as I did end up like Bender by the end of this movie, this is fucking infuriating. Like, you don't have to do this shit, dude. Like, it's just, anyway, but they do make fun of him because he says like, oh, Moliere is like so important. You know, they correct him. Oh, it's Moliere. And I love Brian goes, oh, I love his work.
Yeah.
Like,
he goes, Moliere really pumps my nads.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what Bender says about it. Another great phrase. Yeah. And Brian quietly being like, I love that kind of stuff. He is such a great, like, so innocent and like, oh, like, no, this is school. We're supposed to like school and everything. Like, I really, Anthony Michael Hall is fantastic.
He really is, yeah.
And they're kind of talking about, I don't know, just they start getting into their home life and stuff.
Parents and stuff,
And Claire, Molly Ringwald, starts talking about like her parents use her and everything. So that's, you know, going to be a theme that they're using her to make each other mad.
Andy and Bender are kind of at each other quite a bit.
Yes.
Because I think it's Bender is leaning into Brian more, right? Laying into him, and Andy kind of is like, hey man, knock it off.
Right.
I think that's where we're at. And basically Andy takes Bender down. Like they're about to fight, and Andy like gets him into like a arm hold or something and slams him down into the ground before bouncing back up. But it's like, you know, it's a moment where Andy is showing like, dude, you're the biggest guy here, Bender. Don't get me wrong. But you are not like in total control. Like you don't get to just do whatever you want, right?
Right.
But of course, then Bender takes everything a step further by pulling a switchblade.
The official weapon of crime, should we say? Because there's never a good guy switchblade. Almost never.
No, I guess that's
it's
true.
Only used to threaten or like ask for a wallet or whatever.
That's true.
But yeah, that's crazy for him to escalate it that way. And you know, that's clearly like Andy is like,
like,
okay,
what am
I'm not used
now?
to that.
Like,
That's not a world that I live in.
No, exactly. But of course, Bender also like stabs the blade into like the chair back or whatever, and then Allison immediately grabs it and takes it. And it's like you can't see her, but her hand comes from off screen and like takes the blade. And
okay,
so
nice.
I don't think it ever comes back. It's not Chekhov's switchblade. It doesn't come back. But yeah, she takes it from him. So now he doesn't have his switchblade.
She's kind of a general klepto throughout
She's
the movie.
She's a little hoarder.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Now Carl comes in, I believe. And Carl says hi to Brian.
Oh, that's right.
Clearly, I'm sure he knows him just from whatever.
Well,
Brian's doing clubs after school. Like he'd know.
And just Brian seems like the kind of guy who would
like
say hi
guy.
to a person working at school. Like, hey, how's it going? And the kid, he might go like, hey, what's your name? My name's Brian. Well, I'm Carl. Brian, nice to meet you. And that's all it would take for Brian to remember Carl's name for the rest of his life. Because Brian's that kind of guy. And then he would say hi. You know what I mean? So, and he's not the kind of kid who, if Carl says hi to him, is going to give Carl shit for it, right? Or be all like, fuck you, janitor. Like, that's not Brian, you know? So that's all it really is. But it does sort of like indicate to the rest of the people in the room that like...
Or Brian's like the only one that sees that guy.
There's that,
as like, you know, someone else who's there. Yeah, totally. And then Bender, starts laying into Carl, how does one become a janitor, and just being such a dick. I mean, think about a kid like whatever he's supposed to be in this movie, 16, 17-year-old
something
kid.
like that.
talking to a working adult
Yeah.
like that who does a job that's
Right.
like an admirable job.
And
like there's nothing
absolutely
wrong with doing that
necessary,
job.
like, yeah.
Necessary, appreciated,
Yeah.
and talking to them
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
It's like, oh, you piece of shit. Dude.
Frankly, no offense really meant, although maybe a little offense, to a kid that does not appear to have significant prospects ahead of him. Like this
Right.
is not a kid gearing towards college and like some grand, not that I accept it from like some rich asshole kid, but you'd think, okay, at least I see where their smugness originates from.
Right.
This guy has no reason to be smug. John Bender does. Like
he's crazy. But then Carl cuts right into these kids, which
Yes.
is really great. He doesn't hold back, and he's talking about, oh, okay, you guys think you're big. Like, I hear everything. I see everything. And it goes to what you're saying about him needing to still be big man on campus, because the way he describes his position, he doesn't say, you know what, someday you're going to know what it's like to work for a living or whatever. He is like, I have power over you kids, just like I did when my picture was in the fucking trophy case in the front of the school.
I am the eyes and ears of this institution, my friends, is what he says. And it's like a little grandiose, a little self, delusions of grandeur and whatever. But like, yeah, clearly Carl feels still plugged in.
Yes.
And if not better than these people, certainly they're equal. Right. There's definitely no reason that he's not. No reason that he is in any way inferior to any of them. So
plus he knows how they're doing high school wrong, whereas he did it right.
Yeah, right.
There's that
too.
So yeah, this is a great interaction, and then we get kind of another little montage where they're all whistling together.
Yeah, the Colonel Bogey March. Yep,
okay,
yeah.
I knew. God, I fucking knew you knew that. I didn't even bother looking it up. I was like, okay, Steve's got it.
I always think of it as like the classic summer camp marching song.
Yes, totally.
Right? Like that's the sort of thing I always think of. It's like I think I first saw it in the movie The Parent Trap, the old Haley Mills version, when they all go, when the two girls meet in summer camp away, there's a scene where they're all marching through whistling the Colonel Bogey March. So but
it's so funny that song, I don't know what the original words are. It's been the most Weird Al song in the history of the world, because the only ones I know are like scrotum, it is a sack of skin, like all those like versions of those songs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's lunchtime now.
Yes.
We're deep enough into the day. It's 11 a.m. They've been there for.
Oh wait, actually, before lunch though, there's a scene where Bender is looking through like a medical book or something and asks Claire if she would date a guy with elephantitis of the nuts.
Yes.
And like, well, would you go on a date with him? Would you ride in his car? Because you'll have to sit in the back because his nuts are going to take up the second seat. And they get into a little bit of like, are you a virgin? Or there's a lot of conversation about who's a virgin, who's not throughout the whole movie. And Brian basically is like, no, I'm like I've laid plenty of times, he says, like who? And he goes, she's from Canada. Met her at Niagara Falls. You wouldn't know her. And it's just like the classic Canadian girlfriend, right?
Yes.
But then he's sort of like, and Bender's like, well, did you lay anybody around here? And Brian kind of nods towards Claire and then goes, oh, whatever. And it's like one of the few like truly kind of shitty things Brian does in the movie is sort of like tell Bender essentially that he has banged Claire. That's what he's claiming. And immediately Bender calls him out on it by telling Claire that he did this. And like, there's this whole awkward scene. And Claire's basically just like, Brian, that was hella shitty. Why'd you do that? And Brian apologizes. And this is the one thing about Brian is he's like the only dude who like apologizes for shit for most of the movie.
It is great. I mean, he did not dig his feet in at all. And he told her the truth about it. He's like, you know what? I was actually just embarrassed to admit this.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, there you go, Brian.
Exactly.
What a mature man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that very important scene, and I'm glad we got into that. The Canadian girlfriend, really, really funny. I wrote down what everyone had for lunch.
Oh, good,
in case we care here. Okay,
I mean, there's definitely one I want to discuss, which is the whole Claire and Bender interaction. But I love, especially Andy's insane lunch.
Okay, so here's what we have for lunch. We have Claire. We have the rich girl.
Yep.
She has the official meal of snobs in the 80s, sushi, which is just raw fish. It's just a.
And according to her, and rice and seaweed. That's what she does them.
And it's for people who, like, there's still people today in 2026 who are like, ew, sushi. It's like, have you ever been? There's a billion things you could get. It's crazy for you to have that. So it's very funny that only like the rich girl has her special container, brings her sushi. When now you can buy like 3 varieties at AM, PM.
Yeah, right. Not that I would recommend that, by the way. Don't go buy gas station sushi.
Don't do that. Allison has some kind of a sandwich with olive loaf on it, which she pulls off and flings it up and sticks it to the ceiling. And then she has a bunch of pixie sticks in there. She pours on her sandwich and a little Ziploc bag of Captain Crunch. And that she puts on her sandwich. Very Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah, very true.
So that's her lunch. Bender, of course, he doesn't have anything. He's from a broken home.
Right.
Brian has a thermos full of soup,
right?
A little juice box of apple juice, and a PB&J with a crust cut off.
I mean, he's not wrong because he says to Bender when Bender sits down, says, well, what are we having kind of thing. He goes, probably just your normal lunch or whatever. And then the first thing he pulls out is a thermos full of soup. I go, I have never once in my life brought a thermos full of soup to school. Like, I'm just saying, sandwich, yes, juice box, sure, whatever. But like a thermos full of soup, that's pretty advanced. That's advanced lunch.
Dude, totally. Yeah, AP lunch, dude. Okay, and then Andy's lunch here.
Oh my God.
All right. So we have a giant, and this is like if we were familiar with the TV show Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Larry Kubiak, the bully from the show, always had this giant sack for his lunch.
This
is a proto Kubiak lunch. Yeah, big grocery bag here. And Gordo pulls out three.
Sorry. If you're going to keep doing that, I'm going to keep laughing at it.
I even wrote Gordo. No, so God. Andy pulls out 3 sandwiches, which are like overstuffed, like deli, whatever.
Yeah.
Just
probably
regular
turkey
sandwiches,
or whatever big. Yeah.
A full-size bag of chips.
Right. Like a family size.
Party bag of chips, right? And then also a bag of cookies.
Yeah.
A quart of milk, an apple, and a banana.
Like, I don't want to do the caloric calculation here, but I also kind of want it done for me. Like just the sheer number of calories. Because I get, like, the joke is, right, he's an athlete, he's in training, it's in the season. So he's like, you got to keep eating because you're going to be working out, you're going to do whatever. And I get that all, but this looks like, it looks like 3,000 calories, give or take. Like the chips and cookies alone.
If he eats all the chips, yeah, like for sure.
But he also doesn't have time to do that.
Well, that's the other thing is that Vernon says they have 30 minutes for lunch.
Yeah, right.
So Andy better get cracking. He better start Joey Chestnutting his sandwiches. He's going to get through it.
Real quick, one of the interactions between Bender and Claire over her lunch is, he asks, like, what is that? And she says, it's sushi. He goes, and he kind of wrinkles his nose, goes, sushi? Like he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
She says, yeah, it's rice and raw fish and seaweed. And he says, you won't let a guy's tongue in your mouth, but you're going to eat that?
Yeah.
And she's like, looks at him disgusting, goes, can I eat? And he goes, I don't know. Give it a try.
Yeah.
I just love that.
He has some good line.
Very funny.
Really funny. One thing he does that I don't really like is he's doing this impression of Brian's family. Because he's giving Brian a hard time for his lunch. He's like, oh, how perfect, Brian. Because he's the last person left to bully who hasn't taken his lunch out. So he's going to get there. And he's doing oh, honey, our son is so... It's like, Bender, you get better material than that. That shit sucks. But they kind of get into it about their families. And they're like, well, what about your family? And he does an impression of his dad, which is devastating. Honestly, for his thing to be like, lazy, worthless, and his face changes completely. And like, really, really tough, this scene. Great job by Judd Nelson.
And clearly, it's really obvious. I think even to the again, thinking of these characters as children, right? Like, 'cause obviously they're all professional actors, but like the kids are all reacting in a way where even if they're trying, even if, like, because Andy says, like, oh, that sounds like made up bullshit or whatever, they're still reacting like, man, there's a reality to what he's doing that isn't something people make up.
Right.
There is like this authenticity to the way he's acting angry and shut up, bitch, make me a pot pie or whatever. He says all this stuff. And when Andy calls Bender out on it, like, that's bullshit. That's just what you want people to think. Like, you want people to think. That's when he shows him his scar. He's got a forearm scar about the right size, about the dimensions of a nickel, right? And he says, it's a cigar. That's what happens in my house when you spill paint in the garage. And it's like, and that's when Bender kind of loses it. And this is like one of the earliest vulnerable moments for Bender.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he wanted to reveal that. I think he was pushed to reveal that by the way Andy was talking to him, and he wanted to prove that he wasn't bullshitting, but he didn't actually want to open up to these people in any way.
Yeah.
So he like kind of storms off, and everybody else is pissed at Andy for at least a moment of like, dude, that was too far. Like, that was not cool. He's like, how could I know? It's like, well, yeah, you can't know, but that's a good reminder, kids. You never know the people you meet, what the fuck they're dealing with.
Don't keep pushing. Don't keep pushing someone.
Yeah.
Really gnarly.
Yeah.
And then we have a little bit of comic relief. We see Vernon sitting at his desk eating just a shitty looking lunch, and he pours coffee from a thermos and it spills, but it looks like it's 90% just grounds. It looks like it's wet coffee grounds.
It really is crazy. It looks like sludge.
Yeah.
He even makes a comment. He kind of mutters to himself as he's leaving. I didn't quite catch it, but it's something about the coffee being terrible.
Yeah.
But I was like, why would you even have that coffee? Like what what is that? It almost looks like there's a scene in a movie, The Birdcage, we'll do someday, where they have Turkish coffee and one of the characters knows it's Turkish coffee and sips and go, oh, Turkish coffee, what a delight. This is a rarity. And the other person's like, what is this, sludge? It's like, yeah, I served you sludge. Like what it's Turkish coffee. I don't think that was this though. This looks like Folgers that didn't work right or something.
Yeah, he didn't get the water hot enough and the crystals didn't dissolve.
But yeah, so then the key for that though is he has to now go wander. He has to head off to the bathroom to like, get cleaned up or whatever. And I believe this is where the kids take a little field trip to Bender's locker. So Vernon has left his office and is wandering the halls. The kids now all leave the library and are following Bender to his locker. And we get there and we saw a bunch of the lockers at the opening of the movie. And one of them has this graffiti on it that's like, you open this locker and you die or whatever. Also, weirdly, it looked like he had two of them, kind of one above and one below.
I don't see how he had two lockers, but yeah, you're right.
For the movie. Okay. And sure enough, he opens the locker and it's got a guillotine in it. Yeah. That actually cuts the toes off of like his gym shoes, it looks like, or something, which is like, man, you really should be more careful of what you keep in your locker if you're going to have a fucking guillotine in it. Like, goddamn. But yeah, they are there to grab marijuana. That's what they're there for. They're for Bender's pot stash.
And he's got like a series of paper bags. It's like Gordon's lunch bag with Brian's lunch bag with Andy's lunch. Gordon. Fucking shit. His last name's Gordon. I'm not tripping, am I?
No, it's not. It's something else. No, you are tripping because it's Andy something else. But like, no, but one of the things that I love in this scene is like, it's, well, actually, no, that's right. So I was going to ask you, and if you don't want to admit this on the air, you don't have to, but did you smoke pot in high school? Was that
no,
so
not until
your thing?
After,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So first off, the concept of keeping your marijuana in your locker at school is insane to me. I knew lots of people who smoked pot in high school. Mom and Dad, if you're listening, it definitely wasn't me. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But a lot of friends who did, and nobody would ever have it on campus if you could help it.
Right.
Right. And you certainly wouldn't be leaving it in anything on campus. Right. That's insane. But I cannot imagine. This is Chicago, suburban Chicago in 1984. I think technically we were told the date is like fall of 84 when this actually takes place. And that weed must have been the stemmiest, seediest, dirtiest,
the most
crap.
Terrible stuff.
There's no way it was good.
Oh, my buddy got the good shit from Alberta.
Yeah, right.
Nightmare stuff.
No
there.
good at all. I was just thinking when I was watching this, man, that must be some dirt weed.
Although we find out it does
it does the job.
Trick.
Also doesn't last very long. If we're being honest about their fun times together, they don't last very long when we get there. But yeah, so this is when then I think they realize as they start heading back, Vernon is also like they see him.
They
right?
run into a section of the hall that's kind of like closed off.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we're kind of screwed here. Vernon's going to be back. And Bender takes off to distract him, like singing through the halls and making noise and everything. Yeah.
It's actually a really great moment for the whole group because they notice Vernon's in the halls and try to run around him. And they get to a point where they could go one of two ways. And Bender is suggesting they go one way. And Andy says, no, we got to go this way. We're done listening to you, pal. We're going this way. Well, then and so essentially Andy leads them to this blocked off, hallway. At which point, like, they could all get in trouble. Bender decides to sacrifice himself for the betterment of the group, which is so. It comes out of left field, really. It's interesting in some ways. I mean, if you're looking at all the little signs that John Bender is a very self-aware person throughout the beginning of this movie, it maybe isn't as surprising. But like, I'm sure, like to the characters, it's nearly shocking that Bender would act selflessly in any way. But he shoves his weed into Brian's pants, and just like running down the halls, hitting the locks on lockers, and screaming and yelling. And Vernon starts chasing him, and the other kids are able to get back to the library without any problem.
Nothing happened. Yeah. I mean, and it's almost, he knew that he's gone too far at certain points, you know?
Yeah.
And he's probably also like, whatever, I'm already in the most trouble I could ever be.
I'm going to be here the next 2 months.
More trouble. What are you going to go throw another life sentence on my life sentence? I don't give a fuck. So Vernon, grabs Bender, like he, brings him back there and basically says like, you guys want to laugh, like visit Bender in 5 years. He's really dressing him down in front of them, really embarrassing them. And he takes him to this, supply closet and he's trying to get Bender to like throw a punch, basically. Yeah. He's in his face. He's like, I make $31,000 a year and I have a home and I'm not about to lose it knocking you out right now, but it's all I want to do. Basically, like, I'm going to find you in the future and I'm going to kick the shit out of you.
Yeah. Once you're 18 and you're no longer a student that I'm in charge of in any way, I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
And you just see Bender is just, he's dissociating like he's
Right.
had to do with his dad
Yep.
his whole life.
Exactly.
And is just sitting there kind of frozen. And really Vernon pushes it pretty far before stopping.
Way further than he ever would if he thought for a second anyone would know.
Yeah.
Like that's the key. Is like what Vernon is saying to Bender in that moment. Whatever,
no one's ever going to believe it. Yeah.
That's the only reason he's doing it is he knows he can get away with it. And this is the time when Bender is absolutely the most childlike. We're reminded that, again, we don't get exact ages for these kids, but 16, 17, these are children.
Yeah.
And this is the one time where Bender really looks small and really looks like a kid again, is in his sort of non-action towards Vernon in this moment. Because here's the thing, like, I honestly believe just looking at these two people standing next to each other, if I was going to have to put money on a fight between Paul Gleason and Judd Nelson, I'm picking Judd Nelson at this stage in their lives for sure. But he also is a kid and isn't, like the consequences of what he would be doing are actually so astronomical. He probably is frozen, and even he couldn't make a reasonable decision to hit Vernon. It wouldn't make sense to him at all to do that. And I think, again, that's another thing Vernon knows, having dealt with, there's no way this is the first John Bender he's ever dealt with. Right. No. This is not the first kid he's treated like this in his educator career.
And he might have been that, at least as far as family background, like you probably don't act the way Vernon does if he wasn't pushed around at some point too.
Yeah.
So he's in the supply closet and immediately is like, I'm going to go back.
He just goes up into the drop ceiling. Like,
So we get a little John McClane from Bender.
I was actually funny. I was so prepared to be like, oh, cool, he's climbing through the vents. Like, we should make this thing. Nope, not through vents at all. Just drop ceiling.
Tiles.
Yeah, acoustic tile, like no weight bearing whatsoever. He is lucky that when he falls through the ceiling, that it is to the upper level of that library, or he would be a dead man.
Right?
Like, if he had fallen the full 2 stories of the library, we wouldn't be seeing any more John Bender, but he is somehow aimed just right that he's able to land only 8 feet down and is okay.
And it's out of the sight of Vernon. So when he walks into the library, he doesn't notice that spot because it's, up around the corner.
Yeah. So Vernon hears a ruckus.
So he comes in there and Bender, he's back with the group and Vernon comes in and Bender gets under the table where Andy and Claire are sitting.
Correct.
And Vernon's, what was that ruckus? And then I think it was Brian who says, could you describe the ruckus, sir?
Yeah. And then so we get a shot of what Bender sees, which is between Claire's legs, under her skirt, sees her underwear, and he goes and he puts his head basically between her knees. She initially gasps, but then clearly clamps her knees down on the side of his head, which makes him yelp out.
Yes.
And I think hit his head on the table. And they all are like coughing and slamming the table, like make noises.
I love
and then
that.
One of them goes like, was that the ruckus that you were describing, sir? No, that was not the ruckus. But once again, they're all they're defending each other.
It's becoming a unified group here and we're just barely past lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
So Vernon leaves and Bender says, all right, Vernon says something earlier before he took Bender to the supply closet.
Yeah.
He's like, I bet you have dope. Like, what if I took your dope away? Basically, like, you don't care about anything in your life. Yeah.
Except for
instead
maybe
of me
your dope.
talking about family, I'll say dope or whatever. And he's like, oh, my dope's actually in Brian's pants right now.
It's impossible, sir. It's in Brian's underwear right now. And then he asks Brian for his dubage.
Yes. So we get a really fun scene of them like passing around the joint and smoking. A few highlights. Brian Anthony Michael Hall at this age, probably the best drunk / high actor of all time. Between this and like Weird Science and things, he is so funny, and he doesn't get it time to really eat up the screen in this. But the little bits of him we get are good. For some reason, Emilio Estevez turns into Jim Cotta and starts doing like somersaults and parkour down the hall and like doing all this
like the kind of hobby horse, like what do they call it, like the I don't know what they call it, but it's like the pommel horse.
Yeah, yes.
Like the pommel horse jumps over the book stacks. Also, though, before he gets to that, Andy does something that is so insane to me that I'm sure I never noticed before this viewing of this movie. He comes out of that like listening room or whatever he's in, right?
Yeah.
With the music starting and everything, and smoke. He's hot boxes the smoke, and he takes another drag off of the joint he's got. It is still an inch long, and he just flicks it like a cigarette butt. Who flicks a roach? That's like, you can't do that. That's good stuff.
In Illinois in 1984?
Bender should kill him for that alone.
Yeah. And then, maybe a slightly less ridiculous part where they're jamming out to the music and Andy gets behind the glass in the music room and he screams and the glass just shatters.
Yeah. Still very ridiculous. I don't know if we're supposed to believe he just yelled loud enough, because it certainly wasn't. You know how a lot of times there's like a running gag, I feel like especially when we were kids in entertainment, of like an incredibly high pitched,
right,
like sopranos vocal, like singing could shatter glass. But
yeah,
it had to do, as far as I remember, it had to do with the high pitch.
Right.
And Andy is not does not have a high pitched voice. So I guess he's just supposedly loud enough to do, like, what the
just
hell would
enough
that
teen
take?
energy. You get enough weed into a wrestler. So man. This is really fun. And it is like, as much of this movie is just kind of people sitting around talking, it's very realistic.
Right. Yeah.
This takes us out of that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice because things got very heavy for a while.
Yeah. It's not enough that I would put this in the genre of fantasy films, like the way we do, like with Groundhog Day and some movies that, like, they're not fantasy like Dungeons and Dragons but they're like fantastical premises.
Yeah.
It's not that. We don't get to that level. But it is, there's like, it's a part comic relief, part just sort of like you can take a breath for a while. And it's good because, we do lead up soon to some heavier shit, including like right away, Vernon's going through the faculty's confidential files, right? He's down in the basement. He's going through confidential, finding out about mental health problems of his colleagues and stuff, like really dirty shit. And that's when Carl walks in on and be like, hey, how's it going, Dick? Like, and they, talk a little bit and basically Carl agrees to not rat him out for $50.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another indicator of how well Carl's life is going for him.
Well, and Vernon is just trying to be the eyes and ears of the school like Carl is. He's just trying to do a little spying there.
Yeah.
They're, after they've smoked weed, they're all kind of going through each other's purses and wallets and everything.
Yeah.
And turns out Allison had stolen Brian's wallet because she comes out with all these details about him. This is a really funny detail of the movie, is that Brian has a fake ID and they're like, this is the worst fake ID I've ever seen. It says you're 68 years old. What do you need a fake ID for? And he says, so I can vote.
Which is like admitting to voter fraud, buddy. Like, that's, now we know why the SAVE Act is trying to make its way through Congress. It's because of Brian and his fake ID. But yeah, 68 years old, I don't think it's going to work for him.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to pass for that.
No.
That reminds me, actually, when I saw that scene this time, it reminded me of Superbad and the whole McLovin. You ever see Superbad? Yeah, the whole McLovin thing. And it was, he made himself like 26. Why didn't you just do it 21? Why'd you have to make yourself like 28 years old or whatever it was? And he had an excuse for it, but it's like true. It's like, man, you really got to pay attention.
Yeah.
You can't just pick a random year.
No.
You know what I mean?
Emilio has a line here where they're talking about, your home life is unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And he says, everyone's home life is unsatisfying, or we'd live with our parents forever.
Yeah.
It's such a great way of like how a teen would be looking at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's bonding a little bit with Allison.
A little bit, yeah.
Andy and Allison are bonding a little bit. Carl, I will say, the scene where he's talking to Vernon, because Carl's kind of like chilling. They're having a couple old styles now.
Yeah.
Right? They're having a couple beers. He has
the most Midwestern beer of all time.
It's really good. He has a great 80s White Sox shirt on.
Yeah. Yep.
Like
the old school.
Tim Raines, Carlton Fisk, like just
Dave
one of the
Parker.
best logos. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like they're chilling out there, Carl and Vernon, and basically Vern's trying to talk about how, it's the kids that are failing us and they weep for the future and all that kind of crap. And Carl's like, man, you're an idiot. Like this is you're just wrong. Like this is what kids are. Kids have always been like this. Like, no, there's no way. And I love, there's a line where Vern goes, it keeps me up at night. These are the kids who are going to take care of me when I'm older. And Carl goes, wouldn't bet on it. Like not the way you treat kids, dude.
Yeah. So there's Carl kind of being a little more wise than the guy who's trying to get $50 to not tell about going through the files. So he ebbs and flows a little bit.
I think with Carl, I think there's at least a little self-awareness that he is who he is and is trying to relive things or whatever, maybe, or like, won't leave the school because of the comfort of him being there and then the memories of it. But I think he is self-aware enough to recognize that he's doing that. Yeah. And he's just okay with it for whatever reason. It's like, that's fine. That's just how I roll. But I think that gives him a little more kind of, ability to look at other adults around and go, now, are you doing the same thing that I'm doing and you're not self-aware about it?
True.
Let's
he
talk.
Could definitely point that out. Yeah.
He can see himself in them, and now we get to one of the most important scenes of the movie, really. So they are sitting on the floor. It looks like they're upstairs in the library. they've all clearly kind of come down off their highs, which is why I was saying about the weed wasn't that good, because everybody's pretty clear-eyed at this point.
Yeah, it was like 20 minutes of the most high you've ever been.
Right. And then
might
it
have been DMT or something. I don't know what they did.
But they are sitting there for 20 minutes this scene takes place for. So it is, about a 20th of, about a fifth of the movie takes place in this scene. And the number of different topics that these kids go over in this time is pretty amazing. It starts off with, what's the worst thing you do for $1 million? Right? Really kind of your basic kind of a would you rather or whatever. And it just goes into more and more different things. They talk about sex and about virginity and like who has and who hasn't. And then Allison out of nowhere pops up and is like, I'll do anything sexual. I don't care. Yeah. And everybody's like, what do you mean? And she talks about how she bangs her therapist. Yeah. And it was like, and everybody is kind of freaking out. Like, that is fucked up. That's terrible. He's taking advantage of you. And there's a line that Alice says here that I think is funny, but not funny, more like underscoring the misunderstanding of sex and consent that a lot of people have, especially young kids, which is why they can get taken care of. Well, they get taken advantage of because horrible adults want to take advantage of them and try to. But a lot of times it happens because children don't have a really solid understanding of what consent is. Because she says, I don't think what he could do could actually be construed as rape because I paid him for the therapy session, right? But it's like, that is such an absolutely twisted concept around what is consent and what is, actively like, a normal sexual interaction, right? That it's kind of almost mind blowing. So it's like funny in that, like, I didn't laugh out loud at it, but I was like, oh my God, she so misunderstands.
But she was do you think she was making a joke? Because I thought she was making that joke because then she admitted that none of that happened.
Yeah. And that you could be true. You could be right. The way I read it was that this was all part of the made up part, and she was making it up because that is how she would understand it would have gone down if it had gone down. Like, that this was still within what she would see as real if what had actually happened had happened. She does later admit it was all made up. She's never done that. It was a way for her to, she basically, Claire accuses her of like using it as a way to get Claire to admit that she's a virgin.
Right.
And that maybe that was part of it. But I think that when everything the way I read it was everything Allison describes within her lie are things she thinks are actual.
It's her imagining how it would be if it was real.
If it happened, this is what would have happened, kind of thing. I could be wrong. It could have been a little, but I feel like that would be a very higher order thinking for a teenager to really kind of understand the levels of quote joke they're telling there. You know what I mean?
Like, okay, gonna be ironic now. Probably not happening in that moment.
It's pretty advanced
for someone who hasn't spoken yet in the movie.
We haven't got a lot of indication that she's like particularly, worldly with her thoughts necessarily. Right. So, but
yeah. Great scene here. Claire admits that she's a virgin, and Allison says, I am too. Like, I'm not a nympho. I'm a compulsive liar.
Yeah, exactly.
And they get into like what they did to end up in Saturday school. Mm-hmm. And Andy is talking about how, I taped Larry Lester's butt cheeks together.
Yeah.
And he was like, do you know him? And Brian gave a very much like, yeah, I know. Like
that's his friend.
I've heard this story from my friend, you piece of shit.
Exactly.
Like,
he's already heard the other side.
Yeah. And the way that Andy tells the story, though, is kind of showing a kid who he knows he should never have done it in the first place, but is really realizing the impact of what he did to this kid, because his whole thing was, I need to bully because my dad needs me to be tough. My dad needs me to be a champion. Mm-hmm. I'm pinning people even if I'm just talking to some fucking kid on the bus. Yeah. Like, everyone's my opponent. I need to defeat everybody. And I do that because of my dad, and my dad is the biggest influence in my life. Fuck, I sent this kid home and he has to tell his dad about that. Yep. I've basically like created my nightmare for this kid, just to do something that I don't want to do in the first place.
Yeah. It's Andy is in the moment, it seems, discovering what empathy is and understanding that we need to view the world not only through our own eyes, but as much as we can through the eyes of the people around us. Yeah. And at least consider, what does this mean for their life, the way we're interacting with them, right? I mean, that's basic empathy. And it's an abject lesson. It's one that he won't soon forget, Andy, nor Larry Lester either. They're both going to remember this for the rest of their lives. And, to see that is one of the most emotionally mature kind of moments in the film, I feel like, is Andy's description of this and the way he describes it. He's near tears. Doesn't quite break out in tears, but he is very near tears.
Yeah.
Talking about the influence his dad has over him. And like you said, the realization that Larry has a dad too.
Yeah.
He doesn't know anything about Larry's dad. He doesn't know how Larry's dad will react. Like, I know that like if my son came home that way, like I would not feel anything but love for my son and
Sure.
would deal with whatever. But there are parents out there who would blame the kid. Well, if you weren't so weak, they wouldn't have done this to you. That kind of thing. Maybe that's what Larry Lester's dad is like. So there is a really radical sort of like maturity on display here by Andy. And when really in a lot of ways, he did the most immature thing to get in there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess Claire's skipping school to shop is also not very mature, but the kind of sophomoric immaturity of action that Andy did is really kind of one of the main things that we see, or one of the most childish things we see of why people are here.
Well, and the thing he did, there's no benefit. At least Claire goes and has a fun day.
Yeah.
The thing he did is only for the purpose of doing that thing,
right?
Which gets nothing for anybody except to say, hey. And Andy then starts talking about, my dad only cares about my wrestling and everything. Sometimes I wish my knee would give.
That's right.
So he could just forget about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is so crazy.
It's dark.
And then Bender, the true adult in the room chimes in with, hey, I think your dad and my dad should go bowling together, which great way. If you're ever in a real life moment of that kind of attention, that is the perfect type of thing to say, where you're showing like, I understand, but also let's let a little air out of the room.
And I'm not going to make it about me.
Yeah.
There's a way a lot of people try to commiserate with people who are sharing vulnerable things that ends up making it about them. Like, oh, well, I experienced this too.
Right.
Let me tell you about it or whatever, which is like, the speaker feels like they're trying to relate, but the person who gave up the original story is now thinking, okay, now we'll talk about you instead.
Yeah.
But the way Bender did this was, I'm in the same boat as you, but he didn't center himself at all.
Right.
It's just, hey, I think these two assholes we
he
both
didn't
know
try
would
to
really
one-up
like
the
each other.
story or anything like that. It was just like,
it was a way to say,
very nice.
I'm similar. And again, Bender, best character in the movie.
Great.
Like,
He's
I
great.
never thought I would say that.
Let's see. We're talking about now special skills that they have for some reason. Right. And Claire's there, is there anything you could do that's special? And Claire's skill is that she holds her lipstick between her boobs and like puts it on.
I think it's
don't
in her
understand
bra.
how that's much of a,
like Molly Ringwald doesn't, no offense to her, she doesn't have particularly large bosom.
No.
I don't think she could actually hold anything in between, like in her cleavage, but I think she like tucked it into like her bra sort of, and then put it on her lips, something like that. But it's
just a
interesting,
goofy, like party trick thing, whatever. And then he notices, Bender notices, I think, Claire's earrings. She has these diamond earrings on. Mm-hmm. And again, now he's back in immature, jealous, like you have things
lashing
that I
out.
don't have. And he's lashing out at her and talking about, oh, those must be nice. Oh, what were they, a Christmas present?
Did you work a job to earn the money to buy those?
He's going after her for it. Your parents just grant you everything. You know what Christmas was like in my house? And then he has this great speech about, you know what my dad gave me for Christmas? A carton of cigarettes. Smoke up, Johnny. And the anger that he has, every impression of his dad is just brutal.
It is,
right?
Yeah. And I'm sure well earned.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think it's Brian then gets into a little bit of a turn away from that topic where he starts asking, what's Monday going to be like?
Yeah.
Right. We're all going to leave here today. Tomorrow's Sunday, like whatever. But then Monday morning, we're all back at school. We're all back here together. Are we friends? Like, I think of you as my friends now. Like, are we friends? And this is one of the most heartbreaking sort of segments from here for a few minutes in the movie, because Claire and there's an element here where Claire's, they yell at Claire, you're a bitch, because of what she says. And it is super shitty. It's also incredibly self-aware. Yeah. She is absolutely saying to all of them what they're all thinking about the realities of social life in high school, which is, I'm popular, you're not. My friends would never understand why I would even say hi to you. That's just going to keep being reality.
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand what it means, what I have to do to maintain what I have. And it's obviously, it's incredibly selfish. It is conceited. They say you're being so conceited. And it's like, she is, but she's also being incredibly pragmatic given the reality she finds herself in.
You're right.
And I don't have to like it, but I can respect it that she is being so open and honest with them about that, and not just saying, oh yeah, of course. And then, fucking talking behind his back or some shit later. Like, she's being incredibly open and honest about it. It's just a really shitty thing to be honest about.
It is, but she's also not saying it in a dismissive way.
No.
She's just like, unfortunately, no, I am not going to talk to you next week. Instead of like, ew, no.
Right. Fair.
Like it's she's realizing kind of which is the first step in improving, right? Is
Yeah.
just recognizing what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
So hopefully that leads to some growth for Claire. But yeah, Brian is very upset by this,
Yeah.
and he's going around the room saying like, would you talk to me? And he's like, I wouldn't do this to any of you guys. Like,
Yeah.
we're friends after today. Well, you're worried about what your friends would think if you said hi to me. He's like, my friends wouldn't care if I said hi
Right.
to you. And then Claire, again, kind of going into a little less mature, says, well, your friends wouldn't mind because they look up to us.
Right.
And that's just like,
which is again, like, yeah, it's sort of like, it's wrong. It's not the reality, but it is also a little bit accurate in that the societal schism or strata of high school has placed her and her friends higher than him and his friends. And there is a reality of those above do not fraternize with those below, and those below don't mind fraternizing with those above in general.
Right.
Obviously there are individuals that are different, but like, that's a reality this was the kind of thing that I never really thought of when I was watching this movie younger. And now retrospecting so far ago with high school so far in the rear view, it's like, nope, that is absolutely accurate. That is how things were. Even I, was not like a popular kid, but I had a lot of friends, a lot of different friend groups, the theater stuff, like whatever, kind of like all over. There was definitely still a strata, a hierarchy at the time of like, no, if that person talked to me, I'd be interested because they are higher up than I am.
Right.
And if there's this person way below me, it's like, I would say hi, but like, I don't particularly care one way or another. Like, there's an element of that. And it's super shitty, but it's super real for children, for high schoolers.
It's so hard to understand that shit while you're in it. It's like, damn it, if you could just have your 5 years older self advise you on high school, and like, it would be a breeze,
It would help, yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it is nice, like, that there's this tension that Claire is honest, and it doesn't turn into like, yeah, of course, Brian, like, let's go
it's
to
not
prom
a fairy
together.
tale. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
They're kind of talking now about what Brian did to get in there, or he offers this up.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what I did, which again, nobody's really asking him about himself. In
Exactly.
Any way.
Yeah. Which is another example of that strata thing. Right. But yeah, he tells him he brought a gun to school.
Yeah.
And this was hard to watch. This was something that this time watching it almost brought me to tears, because now thinking again as a parent, this was less about thinking back to my high school days and more about thinking ahead to my kids and thinking about how Brian's parents, if they're at all good people, which we see his mom is like angry at him for being in detention.
Mm-hmm.
She's angry about him about whatever, but she probably doesn't know the whole story about why he had the gun in the first place.
Yeah.
I have to believe that if his parents had any idea that the pressure they were putting on him was close to driving him to suicide, that they would reevaluate their priorities. I have to believe that that's the case. It might not be, but like in my head canon, Brian's parents are oblivious, not evil.
For sure.
And so thinking about that and thinking about the pressure that all kids put on themselves, even before parents add more, is scary as hell.
Yeah.
And so hearing him, and again, this is kudos Anthony Michael Hall. It's a well-acted scene of talking about, really, this is the best part, not talking about. It's in the moments and the silences between his sentences that are the most powerful and are the scariest as a parent, because they're the things that your kids aren't saying.
Yeah.
That you really have to worry
stuff
about.
he shouldn't say as he's going
like,
through
it was
his
just
head.
so tense for me watching this, and I don't remember ever being as affected by this speech as I was this time. And I think, again, because I have not seen this movie since I had kids, and it's hard to watch. And Brian's admittance that he's that close to, I can't get an F. Yeah, I can't. And if I get an F, even if I, whatever, even if I live with the F, it drags my grade point average for the entire year down to a B. I can't have that.
Yeah.
My parents can't have that. He is fully convinced his parents would rather he be dead than get an F. He believes that wholeheartedly.
Yep.
And that is horrifying and terrifying as a parent.
No, for sure. And that's a great thing to bring up. And I mean, this movie, a lot of the movie is about just the pressure or lack of interest that your parents show, and like how that can trickle down to you. But be nice to your damn kids. Your kids are awesome. Your kids are beautiful, and it's fine what their grades are.
And life is fucking hard, and they're trying to figure it out.
Exactly.
And we're all trying to figure it out. There's no guidebook for parents. There's no guidebook for growing up.
No.
If you don't remember that from your own childhood, think about it again.
Yeah.
Because they are all just doing their best to get through this world.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. No, that's really important. And so this is a very heavy scene, but then Brian does say at the end of it, he was like, they're like, well, where did you get a gun? He's like, it was a flare gun. It went off in my locker. So then they're all kind of
burned it out.
Up,
That's funny.
So that's great.
And it really, I don't know for sure, but I don't think you can kill yourself with a flare gun. I don't know. I guess in the side of the head could still do a lot of damage.
Not quickly. You could cause yourself to die in a very long and drawn out way.
I suppose that's
probably,
true.
right?
Yeah, it's not nearly as dangerous because I think it's Allison asks, was it a handgun? He goes, no, it was a flare gun.
Yeah.
It's like, if it had been a pistol, clearly that is a killing machine. But a flare gun, it would have been harder to get actually get that job done.
One thing I just thought of now, though, we kind of see this with Brian's embellishment of his story, or leaving out a very important detail.
True.
And with Allison, kind of the way that these two characters, who are kind of the least popular ones, the ones who don't get a lot of attention, respond to getting attention from the group. They're a little like, they're doing a little Enrico Palazzo a little bit, let me ham up this story a little and see where it goes. And then they realize, okay, well, let me pull it back.
Yeah. As soon as they get asked about it or pushed on any of it, they immediately revert to honesty.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Bender consistently doubles down into whatever stance he's taking.
Right.
And Brian and Allison are the opposite.
Okay, so we get this heavy scene and this wraps up, and it's really great. We got them dancing again.
Yes.
Another really goofy ass dance montage, which I enjoy the shit out of.
And one that's been recreated by comedy troupes and different groups and on TV shows. It's a very, very classic moment and really necessary after that 20 minutes of sitting on that chair on the floor with them and ending with Brian's conversation about nearly committing suicide. We really needed to take a breath and have something just clean and palate cleansing happen. So this whole dance sequence, I think, really is meant to be that before we kind of wrap the movie up.
Yeah.
And so but that I feel like was the climax. I feel like the conversations about what'll happen on Monday and Brian's thing and Allison being compulsive, all that is the kind of the climax of the movie. And we're into denouement more than anything else at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I remember when I first saw this, so there's a scene of Claire with Allison, let me make you pretty. And then the way she makes her, I'm like, I liked her before. I thought she looked better before. This is kind of a weird look on her. But she puts makeup on Allison, and then they also, this is shitty too. This is kind of pushing me more towards nobody learned any lessons because they're like, hey, Vernon wanted us to write an essay, but really what's the point in all of us writing an essay? Hey, nerd, write our fucking essay for us. And then Brian has to, we're going to go hook up. Why don't you write this essay for us, you fucking dork?
I don't disagree with you, but I will point out Claire asked him initially, Brian, you're going to do the essay no matter what, aren't you? And he goes, yeah, I'm writing something. He was not going to leave without writing something.
Yeah.
So they're just like, could you just write something about all of us instead? He's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that's essentially how it played out. I get what you're saying. I did think that too, but then I also was kind of like, he really was going to write that essay one way or another. And he's not the kind of person that gives a shit what effort other people are putting into.
Yeah.
He's doing what he's told to do. And that's all that matters.
That
to
makes
him.
sense.
So I don't think he minds.
And it's realistic
scenario.
too, that whatever evolution results from this day that these characters had together, they're not fully changing by the end of the day.
Absolutely. It's not transformative.
So Brian's still going to do Brian shit. Mm-hmm. They're all, going to do their stuff.
Yeah.
So Brian's got to write the essay, and there's a cool voiceover of him reading the essay, which is not a 1,000 words at all.
No, not close.
And we have the students getting picked up now.
Yes.
So we've got Claire and Bender have kind of had a little romance. She gives him his diamond earring.
Really, quite something. It's almost like I feel like that is the rich girl version of handing over the Letterman jacket, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, totally. Her custom chopsticks and her diamond earring.
Those chopsticks were nice.
They were good. She better bring those home. Don't throw those out. So they're all getting picked up and stuff. And I think the last scene we get is Bender walking across the football field and does a big fist in the air celebration as
it's a little corny
and the song starts up.
It's a little corny. Yeah, we do get more.
In my memory, though, he jumped super high and did it. So in reality, all he does is throw a fist up. That's much better.
Yeah, the jumping would have been much worse. It's not Dragon Ball Z. One thing I wanted to point out in this scene is Brian was everybody's getting picked up by the same people that dropped them off essentially.
Yeah.
Except Brian was dropped off by his mom and his little sister and is picked up by a man. His dad, right?
Yeah.
Do you know who that was? That was John Hughes.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, John Hughes driving the car. And I feel like there's a moment where I want to imagine there's a moment where John Hughes, the actress who played the mom had to leave, or he needed to do a pickup shot. We didn't quite get that. And now we're not going to bring that actress back. I'll just get in the car. But he is uncredited in the role as Brian's dad.
That's so funny. Oh, man. Wow. It's Breakfast Club. What a film. Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's a good one.
Yeah, very much. You want to give us your wrap up?
Yeah, let me give my wrap up. Actually, I got a little factoid, which I should have dropped earlier, but the actual ages in real life of the different actors when this movie was filmed here. Okay, we got Anthony Michael Hall, age 16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Molly Ringwald, age 16.
Okay.
Emilio Estevez was like 21 or 22. I think he turned 22 during filming. Ali Sheedy, 21. And Judd Nelson, 24.
Wow. Okay. That makes a lot more sense now that in the same year, those three, the ones who are 20 plus, are all ones in St. Elmo's Fire, where they play 20 somethings, right? Like post college, I think even. Right. St. Elmo's Fire. So not surprising then that Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall did not make it into that movie. That would have been odd.
Yeah, totally. So this holds up for me. I mean, I thought I enjoyed watching this a lot. I really cared about the characters. I thought this was a great conversation, and getting to get into like high school psychology and the effect that your parents have on you and the effect that your peer groups and like the different social stratas of high school. And like this encapsulates that really well. And even though this movie is 40 years old, I think this is still relevant. I think all the themes here still hold up. I think all the character types are still out there.
Yep.
I think, man, I don't know what to pick apart too much about this movie. I really did. The supporting cast, Carl and Vernon were great. This is a 4 out of 5 for me. This is very enjoyable. I think I'd watch this again, 5 years from now or so. Yeah. And I got a lot from it. And I got a lot from this conversation. And it helps kind of like bouncing those ideas off each other as we kind of try to understand this movie as like mid-40s people who have kids or are going to have kids that age.
Yeah. No, for that, I think it's funny enough. I'm actually right where you are. I'll go ahead and just say that I'm also a 4 out of 5 in this movie. I think for me, there is so much that's still relatable. There's some stuff that doesn't hold up. There's an F slur near the beginning of the movie that I will almost always knock a movie down a little. Yeah. This like there's two, because there's that, and then Andy actually calls in.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So don't love that stuff, but that is of its time. I'm not gonna like freak out about that, but it does maybe knock down from any kind of perfect level, right? When you have stuff like that, because it makes it harder for me to want to share it with my kids and just the stuff like that. But in general, this is still an incredibly poignant movie. It's incredibly well acted by a group of relatively young, as you just pointed out, maybe not as young as they seem in the movie, but relatively young actors. Hughes at his height as far as writing goes. I mean, really wonderfully scripted movie as well. God, how do you not like Paul Gleason as the heavy, right? If that guy ever whenever he's the villain in something, it's fun. Yeah. It's quality.
One of our faves.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm also a 4 out of 5 on The Breakfast Club. That makes us 8 out of 10. And, I think that's perfect. This is absolutely a great movie. If you have not seen The Breakfast Club in a long time, go back and check it out. I think especially if, like Nick and I, you kind of are at a different stage of life than the last time you saw it, maybe it could really, there are perspectives you can take on this movie that would never have occurred to you if you last saw it when you were like in high school or college or something like that.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. Well, Steve, we're moving through the 80s, and I think you're up next here. This was 1985.
Right.
So 2 dads, 2 decades here.
Moving on to 1986. And you know what? We're going to stay very close to this movie.
Okay.
As it turns out, and I got to be honest with you, I didn't really plan this out. We were kind of going through and picking different years and stuff. And I immediately saw the reminder that this particular movie came out in 86 and I penciled it in right away. And as it turns out, it's another written and directed by John Hughes. We are going to see Shermer High School again.
Okay.
Not nearly as much. The movie takes place in lots of different scenes and settings. But yeah, we're going to go to 1986, and we are going back to suburban Chicago and then to the city itself, because we are going to take a day off with Ferris Bueller.
Okay.
Matthew Broderick, Alan Ruck, Mia Sara, written and directed by John Hughes. This movie was, for a while, this was like one of my favorite movies of all time. We saw Ghostbusters, I think, last week.
Yeah.
And there was a time when that was literally my favorite movie at a point in my life. Ferris Bueller maintained a top 5 position for me for a lot of my life. I wouldn't put it there now necessarily. I mean, we'll see after I watch it again, but there was a time when I could have quoted most of this movie by heart, and it really is just such a special piece of kind of like 80s teen comedy culture, in my opinion.
Nice. All right.
Very cool. All right, so that's a wrap. And if you like what you hear, please head on over to Apple or Spotify and send us a 5-star review. It really helps new people find the show. You can check out our website at 2dads1movie.com. That's the number 2 and the number 1. There you can sign up for an account, sign up for our newsletter, The Rewind, explore the movies that we've covered, and get sneak previews of upcoming episodes. We'd also love it if you followed us on Instagram at 2dads1movie. Once again, this has been The Breakfast Club, another episode of 2 Dads, 1 Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everyone.